13th, 2013 Board of Education meeting. We're back from our executive session, and I need to call to order the regular meeting this evening. So our next agenda item then is an update on the Human Sexuality Standards, and for that, Sarah Oatsfall, thank you.
I love that everyone leaves right before we get to the good part. Sarah Oatsfall, Assistant Director of Curriculum and Instruction. To start off tonight, I want to just draw attention to Excellence Objective A of the Board's 2012-2013 goals, which relates specifically to the district's work to develop and align expectations for curriculum and instruction in an effort to raise academic achievement for all students. In conjunction with action step number 9 of this teaching and learning has reviewed the National Sexuality Education Standards for incorporation into the curriculum. And this evening, that's what I'll be providing an update on. Public opinion data collected within the last decade indicates that 93% of Americans support the inclusion of sexuality education in public schools. Currently, in the Lawrence Public Schools, our students receive sexuality education in grades 5, 6, and 9. In 5th grade, sexuality education is conducted in the general education classroom within that curriculum. And in 6th grade, it is included in a required 9-week course, while in 9th grade it is associated with and part of a semester-long required course in 9th grade. While sexual orientation is not currently a part of the standards health curriculum in the Lawrence Public Schools, it is included in the content of the National Sexuality Standards, for which public opinion data indicates support from 75% of Americans. And this is one of the significant changes included in the National Sexuality Education Standards. This information you see on the slide here is taken directly from the National Sexuality Education Standards report and their report on what is included in effective sexuality education. The list that they provide in their document is much more comprehensive than this, but some of the information that we wanted to highlight that we feel effective sexuality would include healthy self-image, self-confidence, and self-protection behaviors and instruction that focuses on those positive behaviors in students. The National Sexuality Education Standards also focus on providing students with knowledge and information that supports health-promoting behaviors and decision-making abilities, all the while in a format that is age-appropriate and developmentally appropriate, using information and teaching practices, materials, and resources that are culturally inclusive. So this all fits within the other goals that the board is working towards at this time. The next I have for you. Earlier in April, a teacher committee met to begin the process of looking at the current standards and comparing them to the new national standards for consideration of alignment in the future. And during that process, it involved all middle school and high school representatives who teach the human sexuality standards in the curriculum, as well as representatives from the elementary level. And while this committee met in April to begin, they feel like the current state standards and the new national standards will require additional time for review to complete the alignment of both the curriculum standards and the resources to be in alignment with the National Sexuality Education Standards. And the T&L recommendation is that can be done in this summer of 2013, with a proposed adoption of the new National Sexuality Education Standards prior to the start of the coming school year. We also have a slide here for recommendations from the teachers. The teachers who met on that half-day professional development time to review the standards, both current and new standards, they worked really hard to also come up with some other specific recommendations that they felt like would meet the needs of them as teachers and educators in our district if and when we move towards new standards. They I think you all in the written report have several specific standards, but I wanted to highlight two of the standards, two of the recommendations that they made, particularly the one focused on professional development. Teaching and Learning is committed to helping support the further education and professional learning of our teachers, particularly focusing on teaching new topics that has previously not been included in the district's curriculum. This is particularly true for this coming summer. There is a HIV, AIDS, STD, and Human Sexuality annual conference in Kansas City, and we are sending at least one elementary counselor to that conference to start looking at some of the new instructional strategies that will surround some of those new standards. And we will continue to seek out opportunities to support our teachers in developing an understanding of new content standards and curriculum. The last thing on this slide talks about further review and consideration of current course structure. As I mentioned at the beginning, currently our students receive Human Sexuality Standards curriculum in 5th grade, 6th grade, and 9th grade. There's a gap in 7th and 8th grade. The committee, upon reviewing the current standards and the scope and sequence of how that happens in each grade, they recommend that we begin to look at the possibility of including some sort of continued coverage of these topics in both 7th and 8th grade as well to cover the gap between 6th grade and 9th grade. Those are the two predominant recommendations from our teacher committee. And that's all I have for you, but I'm sure if you would like to ask some questions, I will do my best to answer them.
Great. Do you have any questions? Again. I do have some comments that oh, go ahead, Randy.
I was just going to say not until we see what, if we're going to incorporate it in 7th and 8th grade, not that it's a zero-sum game, but what would we move in order to put this in?
Right. And that's something that we've had discussions about how structurally that would fit in the students' course schedules and what required courses would it be a part of, and then that gets into licensing issues of who teaches that course for state licensing requirements. But that is a conversation we've already started to have, and we can continue to do so.
Yeah, so my comments this evening are that I am pleased that our district has made such an important commitment to the overall health and academic success of our students by working towards the implementation of these national standards for sex education. This isn't simply just the right thing to do, it's also smart. We know that there's evidence that connects sexuality education to academic success. Schools clearly have a vested interest in keeping our students healthy. Over the last several years, I have spoken with many students about the education that they receive in this area, and with these new standards, I expect we will present sexuality as a normal, natural, healthy part of human development, which better meets our students' needs. Furthermore, I expect that we will use this as a key strategy to address harassment, bullying, and relationship violence in our schools, which have a significant impact on a student's emotional and physical well-being. Effective human sexuality education is also highly relevant to students and directly related to our high school graduation rates, which is tied to another major board goal that we have. Over the last several years, I've spoken with teachers, social workers, and nurses who want to provide more comprehensive information to students, but are sometimes unclear about what information they can share without putting their jobs at risk due to the fact that sexuality education tends to be a controversial subject. With these new standards, I expect that our district will provide clear, consistent, and straightforward guidance and professional development focused on delivering sexuality education at all grade levels that is planned, sequential, and part of a comprehensive school health approach, which it sounds like is exactly the direction we're moving in. And I'd really like to thank Adam Holden and Angelique Kobler for taking my request to investigate these national standards seriously, especially given all that's on your plate this year and always, and for taking steps towards the implementation of what I find to be a very important curriculum. Our Human Sexuality Board policy states that sex education must be medically accurate and evidence-based and responsive and inclusive to the needs of our diverse student body. And by fully adopting and supporting these new standards in our schools, we will achieve full compliance with this policy in a way that I think is extremely important. And in the board enclosure and information that I've gained from this report tonight, it's clear that our staff needs some extra guidance with relation to LGBT students and gender identity. And I do want to recommend, both of our high schools and one of our middle schools has a GSA, or Gay Straight Alliance. And speaking with those students, they're highly intelligent, they're highly motivated, and they're great advocates for themselves. So I would assume that that would be a great resource that our teaching staff could tap into so that we can hear from the students as to what their needs are and use that as a resource going forward. We don't necessarily have to go to conferences, you know, in Kansas City or across the nation when we have students who know exactly what they need right here in our community, and we can just hear from them and adopt that. So thank you very much for your willingness to do it, and that is all I have. Oh, wait, we do have an audience participation. So Rachel Gadd-Nelson would like to speak on this topic as well. I'll invite her to the podium if there's nothing further for Sarah Oatsfall. Okay, perfect. And we do have a limit of 3 minutes for any public comment, and so Janice will be our timekeeper this evening and let you know.
Great, thank you. I will need that timer. My name is Rachel Gadd-Nelson. I'm here representing a group in Lawrence called Lawrence Queer Youth Voice. We are an organization that works outside of the school system. We're a youth-led organization for lesbian, bisexual, and transgender students or youth in the area. I'm not a student in the Lawrence Public School District, but I work with students who are. And I got permission from them to come and represent since they were not able to be here tonight. But sex education is a huge priority for our organization. We've actually recently launched a program called Real Talk that is a youth-led program for providing the opportunity to talk about these issues that are not being addressed in schools. And students, the youth who are participating in this program feel that this is the best way to gain access to sex education because they're not getting access to it in schools. In fact, we have a student at Free State who was in the 9th grade class and basically spent most of his time correcting the teacher or challenging the teacher and basically felt like it was a very difficult course to be in for that reason. So our Real Talk program is going to be covering topics like LGBT identities, safe sex practices that other than abstinence, healthy relationships, rape and sexual assault, disability and sexuality, and body image. So the takeaway here is that students in our district are taking sex ed into their own hands because currently it's inadequate. So I'm here to offer our resources to folks who are participating in these efforts, which I'm very, very encouraged by. I particularly like the comments made about educating teachers because that's really where we've seen struggle from students in schools is challenging their teachers. So I'm just here to offer my resources and to ask for your support as well in these efforts on the community level since we're doing this work outside of the schools and we hope to kind of bridge that gap. Oh, I have 1 minute remaining now. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay, with that, I think we have a meeting.
I move we adjourn.
Thank you, Shannon.
Second.
Thank you, Randy. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.